finding new hunters, I think, is very, very important, especially now, because look at the disconnect. I feel there is a huge disconnect, especially in the younger generation, between nature and themselves.
This is the Aptitude Outdoors podcast, where we interview conservationists, hunters, anglers, and outdoorsmen and women to bring you the greatest stories, information, and advice from the best in the world. I'm a huge fanatic for handmade, high-quality leather and canvas products. In my opinion, they last longer, hold up better to the abuses of travel, and honestly, they just look really cool. That's why I use Badger Claw Outfitters. They've been making handcrafted products for hunting, camping, and travel since 2011, and that's right up my alley. Best part is they're made right here in the USA and are guaranteed for life. They've got everything from gun leather, belts, custom knife sheaths, wallets, duffel bags, leather and canvas pouches, everyday carry items, and more. Badger Claw Outfitters, made in the USA, built for the wild. This episode was recorded live at the 2023 Hunt Fish Podcast Summit, where podcasters and guests from across the country come together to talk about their passions for hunting, fishing, and conservation. This year's summit is brought to you by Waypoint TV, Ron Hoover Marine of Galveston, Spot Stalker Guide Service, the Wild Sheep Foundation, Galveston Fishing Company, Captain Experiences, and Badger Claw Outfitters.
Kat, welcome to the Aptitude Outdoors podcast. First off, welcome to the Hunt Fish Podcast Summit.
Thank you.
Are you having fun so far?
So far.
Yeah, great.
I'm going to beat your fish today, though.
I hope so. I hope you kick my fish's ass.
It's coming. It's coming.
So you are a new hunter, and that is my favorite person to talk to because I've only been hunting for about 6 years.
Okay.
So we're very close. We're closer in what we know than to most of the people that are here at the summit who've been like lifelong hunters. So my biggest question that I really always ask, because I still ask myself this question, is why do you do it? What was the turning point where you're like, this is something I think I'm interested in and I want to pursue hunting? Because not many people really make that decision anymore, I feel like.
So I've always been active in the outdoors, grew up camping and fishing and going to state parks, all that kind of cool stuff. I've always loved everything outside. I found myself working for an outfitter. And before I even hunted, I had been on several hunts myself as a observer. And then once that ended, I found myself with this really, really big hunger to learn to do it on my own. My family didn't hunt. That was for the boys. We didn't talk about it. It's just nothing that we did. So I wasn't exposed to it. After working for the outfitter, I was like, that is something I want to do. That's so cool. And there's so many other things in like being outdoors. I love it. The connection with nature, wanting to harvest my own food, fill my freezer. That's a big driving point.
What are the challenges that you've found becoming a new hunter? Because it's like, for me, for example, there's so many things. It's not just hunting isn't just this lump sum thing. There's many avenues. There's many different parts of hunting. There's big game. There's small game. There's guns. There's bows. There's just an endless rabbit hole. So what's like some of the stuff that still is confusing for you or maybe a little bit challenging to wrap your head around? Because once you dive in and you commit to hunting, it's like, what have I done?
So I think one of the biggest challenges for me, because I'm still navigating, learning, is public land. You know, here in Texas, we're 98% privately owned. So public land is not something we have a lot of. But I want to learn the tag systems and draw systems. I need to learn more about that.
Yeah. And that is pretty confusing. We don't really have that as much in Ohio. I mean, we have some tags you have to apply for and stuff, but Texas is a different place. I feel like it's easier to learn to hunt in Texas because a lot of people hunt, but the land situation is tough because not everybody has, $600, $700, $800, $1,000 to go do some of these private hunts or lease land. Yeah. So it's a difficult, and I feel like that makes it more difficult. And we went fishing the other day. We were in Llano, Texas, trying to go fishing, and they had like 2 public access sites on the river. One of them was a gate that was locked. And we were like, well, and
There goes half of our chances.
there goes half of our chances. So how do you navigate that? Because that is really a difficult part down here, is like, you can't just drive somewhere 10 minutes away and go hunt.
No, you can't. And I think mentorship is a big part of it, which is what the Women Hunt set us up with. Also, before we left, we were paired with a mentor that would show us the ropes. And I've been in contact with my mentor. He has a very busy schedule and we live a few hours apart, but we've been in contact. He's provided me with information and advice and said, anytime you need something, call me up, let's discuss it. He's invited me out to his family ranch, which is awesome. So hopefully I'll cash in on that opportunity. But it's wild how much I don't know. And I'm so hungry for all the information.
So I had Renee on last year, who founded Women Hunt.
Yep.
And she's, in the same boat as me. We started hunting at the same time. We're learning all this process at the same time. What was, as someone who graduated from that program, walk me through what the Women Hunt program offered you? Like, for say, like day one, no experience, and then now where you're at. Like, what was that whole process like?
Oh man. So they told us it's going to be like a fire hose of information straight at your face. And at first I was like, I don't really understand what that means, other than that could be really wild. It absolutely was. We went to the FTW Ranch here in Texas in the Hill Country. Very, very limited knowledge on rifles or anything. I remember going to the range on day one, shaking, scared, nervous, intimidated, because we're with ex-special ops guys. Like, we're learning from the best of the best. By day two, I felt confident. And that was a huge change. And that moment, that memory will be a core memory, because I felt confident. I was like, I know exactly what to do. Day two, we were shooting out to 300 yards accurately.
Wow.
But there's so much more to hunting than just precision shooting. There's knowing what to do in the field, how to blood trail, how to process your animal. So they took us through all of that. Incredible. And one of the big pieces of the program is giving back, passing it on. And there are 12 women from all over North America, 3 from Canada, everybody else from the States, all different kinds of backgrounds. So the way we give back will look different. And I just am excited for what I can provide, whether it's talking to somebody or introducing somebody to the Wild Sheep Foundation or Texas Bighorn Society. It really was a life-changing experience.
Yeah. And I think one of the best parts about hunting is sharing it with other people, because it's changed my life so much for the better. And I think people have this perception of hunting as it's this like bad thing, and everybody loves to just kill stuff, and it's this big blood sport, which I'm very lucky in the fact that I know people who are very good and ethical hunters, and you've come up through a program that teaches good ethical hunting.
Correct.
And I think it's important to help change people's opinions on that, because there are people out there who do that are like that, or, what people would call rednecks and things of that nature. That does exist. And, but I think it's important, if you have somebody that's interested, to take them under your wing and show them, like, this is how you should be doing things.
Right.
And I think that's the most important part. So what was the first hunt that you've ever done? That's always the best.
So the first hunt I ever did was 2 months after Women Hunt. Lone Star Outdoor News Foundation reached out to me. So lucky for the opportunity, invited me and one of the other participants out to North Texas for a whitetail buck hunt.
All right.
It was incredible. 3 days in a stand, ready to put what I learned into use. Still got nervous.
Oh, absolutely.
Really, really nervous. And it was day 3, the 9 o'clock hour, like it's do or die, and made it successul. One shot.
So what's the difference between shooting at a rifle range and then shooting at an actual deer in the field?
About 170 beats per minute.
Correct.
So the SAM course teaches you how to shoot prone, which is what we do a lot of our hunting training on. They teach you how to shoot off of a sitting position, off of bags, off of sticks. We weren't in a stand, so I had to take what I learned, try to apply it to the stand. Pretty easy. We had some really, really good solid training. It was just calming my heartbeat
Yes.
and my breath.
Yeah. When I was the first deer that I bow hunted, I was wearing like a Fitbit or whatever.
Yeah.
And it was so funny because every time I saw a deer, it would just go through the roof.
Yeah.
And I went home one day and I looked at the app on my phone or whatever. And I was like, I posted it on social media. I like, guess what point in time I saw the deer? And there were these huge spikes. It was like 150 BPM just ripping.
Right.
And it is hard. I think a lot of people don't realize how different it is when the animal's there. And that's really the important part, because you can train all you want, but if you fall apart in that moment,
Yep.
that's hard. So controlling your heartbeat is hard. You just got to, it's almost just like,
Yep. So Doug Pritchard, he was training me on one of the days we were there. He kept saying, breathe,
yeah.
focus, trigger control. So the whole time I have that in the back of my mind, and I'm like, okay, you've got this.
Yeah.
You've got this.
Yeah,
It worked out.
It works out. And then, it's good. That's what, again, back to why it's so important to have a mentor, because they've made all these mistakes. They can
Yes.
walk you through this and be like,
Yes.
this is what you need to do. This is going to happen. Calm down. It's
Yep.
going to be okay. So with the wild food part of it, I think from the hunters I talk to, especially newer hunters, that seems to be the major priority for a lot of these people, because even people who started hunting as adults, I mean, the way that the food is in this world, we all know there's issues with the way things are raised and the food we eat. How important is that to you before you hunted? Like, were you observant of that, or did you something you learned and are more observant of now that you hunt?
I've always been, I shouldn't say always, for a long time, I've been very passionate about health and fitness, and seeing where our food comes from and how people eat and how gluttonous we are. It's always been in the back of my mind, and being able to harvest fresh protein that's not pumped full of hormones and who knows what else.
Yeah.
It satisfies a big chunk of my heart.
Yeah. It's becoming so much more talked about in the hunting world, because it used to be like this, it got lumped in with like vegan and all this stuff. Like, oh, these weirdos talking about food. But like,
Right.
if you think about it, at the end of the day, what is the point of hunting? Well, why have we hunted as humans forever?
Forever.
Because it's part of it's how we sustained ourselves.
Yep.
And it's funny, I don't know, I see a lot of people that now that you said you like the health and fitness, they talk about all these diet trends and all this like stuff that comes in and out of fashion. And I'm like, if you think about it from a historical perspective, people didn't eat a lot of like lettuce. You know what I mean?
No.
They were like,
No.
they'd kill something and eat it and found what was on the landscape. It's like, it's kind of, even like when they talk about like the paleo diet and all this stuff, I'm like, still doesn't really kind of make sense in a way.
People weren't munching on kale.
Yeah. They were like, there's a buffalo. I'm going to eat that buffalo, and whatever else I can find, that's great. So,
And I'm going to utilize every other piece of the animal as well. Yeah.
It's an interesting path. Like, you said you've been reading you did read the North American Model of Conservation book.
I did.
Currently
By Shane
working.
Mahoney.
Yes.
Yep. And Dr. Valerie
Amazing
Geist.
book.
Yep.
Amazing book. What did you learn from that more so? Because a lot of people aren't aware of how much conservation is tied to hunting. In America, North America specifically, they're like, you cannot separate them.
No.
They're intertwined. So how did that change your perspective?
So when I was working for the outfitter, I was running his social media, and hashtag everything. One of them was hunting is conservation, and not coming from a hunting background or knowing much about it, I could not connect the two. I didn't understand.
Yeah.
After reading the book and learning what the conservation model is, you're right, it is intertwined, and it's science-based and it's fact-based, it's not emotion-based, and hunting does play a huge part in it.
Yeah, it's astounding. And one of the things that I read recently that kind of blew my mind, in that book, they go through the historical perspective of where kind of this roots of hunting came from. I mean, conservation came through hunting. And do you remember that piece about where they're talking about how they used to fine people who harvested more deer than they were allowed to, like by the law in like the colonies?
Right.
That part was like cracking me up. They're like, if you harvest deer, you're going to get fined like 500 pounds of tobacco.
Right. Because tobacco was greater than money. Yeah. Yep.
And it's funny to think of how early on they started thinking about this stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, it obviously didn't work out very well because we had this huge like wipeout of big game in North America and
Right.
birds and stuff.
Right.
So, but it took like these revolutionary people to think about it. But now it's just it's part of America. Like there's a lot of arguing and stuff going on where there's some faults in the North American model of conservation because if there aren't people hunting, then the funding's not there.
Right.
So do you think it's important to get new people hunting? Because out west they're always like there's too many hunters. But I mean, it's a trade-off. It's a trade-off because if you have too many hunters, you're still getting money for conservation, and it's making hunting harder for the guy who's a lifelong hunter who doesn't want all these people out there. It's a tough issue. There's a lot of weird issues in hunting that people don't talk about.
There is, but finding new hunters, I think, is very, very important, especially now, because look at the disconnect. I feel there is a huge disconnect, especially in the younger generation, between nature and themselves. Josh Swanky is the chef at the FTW and taught us so much, and he's a great knowledge source. He talks about a time that he was showing high schoolers a pig, and they asked where bacon came from, and they said, "Oh, I thought it was from a bacon animal." Like, had no idea.
Wow.
Or, meat just comes from the grocery store.
They didn't have any understanding of where it was.
No, there's a total disconnect. So I think introducing it, like you said, taking people under your wing, being a mentor, super important. And I know Chester talked about that last night, you know, showing love through time and taking people outdoors, super, super important.
Hey, what's up everyone? James Appleton here, co-founder of Absolute Aid. Welcome to the Seek to Do More program. This program will help you help yourself by developing the daily habits that will elevate your entire life. Over the next 30 days, you'll complete the doers list every single day. And the doers list includes 1, do something physical. 2, follow and stick to your diet of choice. 3, read a real book. 4, further your education on purpose. 5, dedicate time to your spiritual life. And 6, dedicate time to your hobbies. So if you're ready to take a structured, proven approach to build the daily habits that will allow you to get the most out of yourself, your time, and your life every single day, the Seek to Do More program is your blueprint. So make a choice, commit to yourself, sign up below, and let's get started.
And I think that is really true because it's like a lot of people get up in arms when you start talking about hunting that don't hunt or are against hunting. And the argument that I usually make is that we both have the same end goal in mind. We want to conserve wildlife. If this is something you think about, this is a topic that you're interested in. We both want to conserve wildlife. We both want to have places to go explore, like even if it's hiking or whatever.
Right.
We all want the same thing, except for we are taking responsibility for our actions. That to me, that's what hunting is. A big chunk of hunting is. I mean, I don't like getting covered in blood and gutting animal. Like, it's not the most glorious thing ever. It's kind of gross at the end of the day. But it's like, to me, that's taking responsibility for the choices I make.
Right.
And it's like the equivalent, I guess, to that of like a vegetarian person would be growing all of your own food. Dude, that would be the equivalent, even though, I mean, that's just as difficult. Growing food is hard.
Growing food is really hard.
Yeah. So like there's an equivalent there, but a lot of people are like either or, but it's like, it's an and scenario.
It is an and scenario. Because think about people that want to go bird watch. You have to have healthy habitat to have birds, to go bird watch. And hunters are putting money into lots of money, huge amounts, like billions, into not just wildlife conservation, but landscape and habitat, and it's all intertwined.
Yeah. And it's a really astounding way to keep things funded, because like if it's you have to be responsible. It's like it's passive conservation. Even people who buy ammo and guns that don't hunt are still contributing to conservation, whether they like it or not. I mean, I still always push people to get more involved. Like you're involved with Women Hunt, which is tied to the Wild Sheep Foundation.
Yep.
Which does amazing things for conservation. One of the biggest conservation organizations in the world.
Right.
Like they're doing great work to keep wildlife alive.
Yep. And
I try and join as many organizations as I can because I love all of the things.
All the
things. I love duck hunting. I love fishing. I love deer hunting. I love all of it. I would do any of it any day. And so, like, what has being part of an organization like that done for you specifically? Because a lot of people just get intimidated by joining these things, I think, when they're new.
So before I ever hunted, I had been on 3 of the work projects with the Texas Bighorn Society, and you were on the mountain. It is a well-oiled machine how they do it, but you're building guzzlers, essentially systems that'll catch rainwater to provide water for these wild sheep or whatever's up in the mountains where they don't get enough. And that was incredible to see people taking their time and resources and coming together to build these guzzlers for the sheep, which essentially trickles down and helps the wildlife in the area. The way that people are so passionate. I was at Sheep Show this year for the first time, and wild, huge convention.
Yeah.
So many passionate people in one room, and it's just a great feeling. And they're out there, they're volunteering, and if they're not boots on the ground, they've got money that they're willing to donate and put towards the cause. It's incredible.
Yeah. And I think it's also, for me, it's a great way to meet new people. Like, the people that I hunt with at home, I met through a backcountry hunters and anglers like work project thing. Like, we went and hung out, and now we are like hang out all the time and hunt.
Right.
And that's half the battle for a new hunter, is finding someone, that mentor or that friend. And we learn together. We're all out there like running blind, and it's a great time because
you're probably laugh. From all different sorts of backgrounds and socioeconomic classes or what have you. It brings people together.
So now that you've done the deer hunting thing, what do you want to do next? Because it's unending. Every time you think you like, I've hunted every kind of hunting, someone's like, you haven't even scratched the surface.
I have not scratched the surface. I mean, I have my wish list of things I would like to chase after. But I think one of the closer goals that I have is to take my daughter out and get her proficient in hunting. Because she is a little firecracker, wants to be a veterinarian. She loves the outdoors just as much, probably more that I do. But I want to be able to pass that on to her and let her know that women can do it. Mom is so cool and taught her. And then that's a skill and a love and a passion that it's setting it up for future generations.
Yeah. And that's a interesting topic to me too, is what I feel like it's harder for women to get into hunting. And that's why I love the Women Hunt program. I mean, what Renee has done and the Wild Sheep Foundation has done is amazing.
Phenomenal.
But it is like, even the conference, this is a male-dominated thing. It's mostly guys, and I don't know from a woman's perspective, is it most women just aren't interested in it, or is it like they don't feel like they can get in because it's just all dudes all the time?
If I had to go based on what I felt, it would be intimidation. I know we had talked earlier about comfort zones, and it feels really comfortable there.
Yeah.
I didn't know where to start. I was honestly intimidated. It is so male dominated, and maybe that's a lack of self-confidence or whatever it may be, but it is male dominated, not knowing where to start. Maybe not, had I done a little more digging, maybe I could find resources. The internet's a great place. There's so much information out there, but having that starting point and somebody helping me step into it was life-changing for sure.
So, if there are women that listen to this or watch it and they want to get in their feet in the door and just start, what advice do you have for them?
Find a mentor. Find a really good mentor. Do a little bit of research. Find an organization. There are a lot of people out there that offer mentoring and ways to get started. Women are the fastest growing segment in the hunting industry. So get ready. We're going to make a wave.
Good. We need more.
Yes.
Yeah. So, I think it's just great that there are people who are pushing their comfort limits, because coming into hunting is very uncomfortable. You have to deal with a lot of things that you don't deal with, like growing up in normal society and not hunting. The biggest one is like killing something. That's hard for a lot of people.
It is.
That's usually, from my understanding and from what I've seen with people, that's the biggest barrier. Because shooting a gun isn't really that intimidating. It's like everybody knows people that have guns and they go shoot and play around with guns. And it's like we grew up shooting guns. We were just like shooting pellet guns and having fun out in the backyard shooting cans. It was like the gun thing wasn't intimidating. Spent a lot of time hanging out outside. So like being in the woods wasn't intimidating. But it's like that moment where you're killing something, that's where it's like, I've never done this. It's a weird gray area, like in my consciousness.
Right.
So was that a barrier for you, or was that more of just like a nervousness thing? Because my big thing is like, I don't want to shoot something and then have it like run off and die and can't find it or suffer as much as possible, you know?
So I would be lying if I said that wasn't a part that made me nervous. It did, but knowing that I was going to take the meat home, I was going to process it, I was going to feed my family, I was going to share it with my friends, I took it to a processor friend of mine, small business, knowing that I can support a small business made me feel really good. But intimidating was the rifle, because I didn't grow up in a household with guns or rifles. So that was intimidating as well. But good training took that right away.
Well, and training is very important.
Yep.
I mean, you can take someone who spent a lot of time training and give them a terrible weapon, and they'll go out there and do just as well.
Right.
Whereas if you have somebody with a really nice weapon and they've never shot it before, they're going to do poorly.
Right.
And I see a lot of that nowadays too in the hunting industry, is like everybody's so gung-ho about buying the nicest, most expensive, crazy stuff. And I'm like, I want to just go to the shooting range.
Right.
I don't care what I have.
Right.
I want to go be like the best proficient person I can be. So when when that moment comes and my heart rate's 150 looking at a deer, I want to be able to perform in that scenario.
Right. Yep.
And so do you train a lot now still for that scenario? I mean, for me, hunting is like a whole rounded thing, like fitness. I want to be able to do the work with the animal, get
Right.
into remote places. Training with a weapon is part of it. It's like part of my life now. Researching animal habitat ecology. Like this is a thing I do now.
Yep.
This is my relaxing video game thing, is like thinking about hunting. So do you have like, is that something you consider too? Has it changed you in any way like that?
I have. It's been a whirlwind. So we did the training in October. I went on the deer hunt in December, and we're in March. It's just been a whirlwind. I haven't had a chance to go out and shoot more, but
It is hard to do.
But it's definitely at the top of my list, because that's a skill I don't want to lose. So it is. I should be out practicing more.
We all should be out practicing more. You know, it's hard though, because you have to get a membership or something, or find
Yep.
somebody with property and go to a gun range or
Yep.
whatever. And then there's a lot to remember.
There is a lot to remember.
Like, do I turn the knob left or right when I'm sighting this in? Do I go up or down? And then you have to just spend a lot of time, and it's nerve-wracking. It's the same thing with a bow.
It is nerve-wracking. But living in Houston, we are blessed with plenty of gun ranges, indoor and outdoor. So I just need to stop making excuses and just go do it. You know.
That's most of us with everything.
Yeah. Yep.
Well, is there anything that you want other people to know about hunting? Because like, it's different for everyone. It's not the same experience for every person. It's just different for everyone. Like some people it's like this big sacred ordeal, and some people it's like, it's Tuesday, I'm going hunting again.
Right.
So is there anything that like you really think about a lot, I guess?
I think it gets such a bad name. You know, you hear all the arguments, oh, they're just doing it for the horns, or it's just for the trophy. There's so much more to it. And the way, like we talked about the North American model of conservation, we're giving back in a big way. And I think it's important to mentor, get other people that may not be able to.
Well, so is your daughter interested in hunting? Is she like showing an interest, or are you
1,000%.
Really?
So when I was working for the outfitter, it was the year COVID hit, and she did 5th grade year at home, virtual. We were out in the field. We were scouting. We sat between 3 herds of axis, which are such vocal deer, and got to experience it. We went shed hunting. She knew all kinds of animals that I had just learned about, you know, so we're kind of learning at the same time. She is absolutely 100% ready to get out there and
how
do it.
old is she?
12.
12. So that is going to be a good experience. So what are you going to try? You're going to take her out for a deer. You said you're going to try and get her into hunting
Yep.
a deer. Are you excited? Are you nervous? Is that going to be?
Oh, really excited.
Yeah.
Really excited. And that's, you know, in a way that's me giving back as well. Mm-hmm. And as a thank you to Women Hunt for giving me the opportunity. Now I have confidence to pass it on to somebody else. And she'll be great at it. I know.
That's awesome.
Yep.
I would like to get like my nieces and nephews out. I would love to take them hunting, but it's just a matter. I don't know if their parents are quite comfortable with that. But I think it's really important for kids, especially because I wish I would have learned this stuff when I was a kid. I'm like, I always feel like even at events like this is my 3rd year here. And I've been hunting a lot since I started, like down the rabbit hole, fully into the matrix, you know, like in that world. And it's still intimidating. Like everything you learn is a new thing is just intimidating. And you always feel like you're a decade behind everybody else. Or some of these guys have been hunting for 30 years. And I always feel like super far behind. But what I've noticed is like they have a similar mentality. Like they want people to hunt with and to be good stewards of this resource. So they're really willing to teach too.
And that's a good hunter.
That's a good hunter.
Especially for people like us in our infancy.
Yeah, I asked so many questions. By the end of this thing, these people will be sick of me.
Yeah, please no more questions.
I'm gonna ask as many questions.
I am hungry for all the knowledge, and I am not afraid to ask 1 billion questions.
Good. So we're going at some point to do thermal hog hunts. Are you excited for that?
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
Where else can you do that? I mean,
all of Texas.
All of Texas.
But yes, absolutely. But I didn't get to do it last year because we were working on some filming projects. We were like here. I'm doing it this year.
Let's go in the same buggy.
We can go.
Yeah.
Yeah. New hunter buggy.
New hunter buggy.
Me and our friend Seth. He's never hunted before.
Let's bring it. Let's do it.
Yeah. I'm mentoring him, which is so
that's amazing.
The backstory is he came here with me last year. I was like, dude, he's like showed a little interest in hunting a little bit. Like he's like, I just don't know about it. I don't really. It's like, dude, come to this thing with me. Let's film a documentary or something, and we'll just hang out and you can meet these people. He's down the rabbit hole.
I love it.
He still has never hunted. You might be on his first hunt ever. We'll see if he wants.
Gray would call that virility. Virility.
In what way? Just.
It's like throwing the pebble in the lake and the waves. You know.
But I feel like that's my job though.
But it isn't. But you're doing good things.
I feel like it's my responsibility because I have done a lot of outdoor stuff.
Yeah.
I was in the recreational outdoor world for a long time and it was fun. I had a lot of fun.
Right.
But it didn't change me the way hunting has. And I want people, it's like I've been enlightened.
Yeah.
I'm like, it all makes sense.
I feel the same way.
And that's what I want. I want other people to have that joy.
Yep.
Which is a weird word to associate with hunting, but it is joy.
It is joy.
It is joy.
It is joy, yeah.
It makes me happy.
Very happy.
And do you like, I don't know if it's different for you guys a little bit because it's a little warmer down here than where I live most of the year. Hunting can be pretty brutal sometimes. I suppose the heat would be the equivalent for you, hunting in like 80-degree weather and stuff. For me, it's the cold. I feel like that adds to the experience though, because where do you, as a modern human being, get to sit and be just bored and miserable and hot or cold and just think about your life? We don't do that anymore.
No, and you're totally loving every minute.
Love it.
Yeah.
Even when it sucks, it's great.
So when we were at the FTW ranch, we were on the range for 4 days. I was in a tank top, shorts, sunburned on this side by the time we went in. By that evening, cold, windy, rainy. I'm talking like, not freezing, but freezing cold. And the change in temperature, the next morning we went out, it was still cold again, bundled up in layers, can't feel my toes. Here's a pro tip, bring gloves if it's cold, because your fingertips will freeze. Yeah. Still loved it. Yeah. Wouldn't have wanted to be anywhere else doing anything else. And we were just scouting.
I try not to bring my phone when I hunt. I mean, I bring it for an emergency purpose, but I try not to look at it because I don't even like, no reading, no nothing, no Instagram, no Facebook, none of that. I try and stay off of it because A, I've messed up quite a few hunts by not paying attention. And B, we're just so connected all the time to everything now.
Everything all the time.
I think we need more of that.
I agree.
We need more of the just being outside.
Yeah.
But it's not boring in the sense of like sitting on your couch and watching TV to me is boring. It's like there's still stuff happening. There's birds flying around. Last time I went hunting for deer, there was a fox running around. And that ruined my hunt because I wasn't paying attention when the deer walked out in front of me. But I just love being outside. Like even at the end of the day, my perspective is a bad hunt where you don't get anything, which is most hunts, still better than being at home.
100% agree. And like I mentioned, I had been on several hunts as a spectator, taking photos or whatever for the hunters. I would not have traded that for anything. I got so much joy following them and watching them get excited and happy, and there's no words.
Well, and I'm not even like joking. If you go out there and catch a bigger bass than me, I will be twice as happy as catching the bass myself, because I love seeing people get that same experience. Like Ranch Fairy came up and helped me grab my fish out of the water, and he's caught the big bass.
Right.
He's caught like 10+ pound fish.
Yeah.
And he was just as excited as I was. And that's not even a big fish to him. I was like, this is the biggest fish I've ever caught. And he was like, yeah, dude, that's great.
Yep.
It's like, that's what everybody I'm around, they get so excited.
I think you find that in the hunting world. There's that camaraderie, and people want to see people succeed. Now, you still have bad apples, just like in any scenario. Or
Human beings tend to have that.
have that. Yep. But it's just amazing, the support and the mentorship and the camaraderie and people with the same goals,
Yeah.
but from all walks of life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when we go thermal hunt, would this be your first pig?
I have pig hunted before when I was married a long time ago.
Okay.
Nothing on thermals, never done that. So that's going to be really cool.
It'll be my first pig hunt.
I'm really excited.
Pigs are a weird situation for me too, because we don't have this in Ohio where I live. I mean, in Southern Ohio, I think there might be some pig stuff going down.
Okay.
But it's a weird, like, I would never, ever, ever be the one to be like, I'm just going to go kill this animal. Because I do want to eat, if I do shoot one, I do want to eat it and take it home with me and do that. But I would, like, it's such a big problem here in Texas on the landscape and like destruction wise.
Very destructive.
I do not have it. It's like one scenario where I do not have an issue, which is weird for me to say even out loud, because I don't like just wanton killing. But
Sure.
I've seen the destruction firsthand.
They're like roaches.
Bad. Where we're at last year, they came through and it was a different place last year. There was hogs, sign, everything, just like destroyed the grass out front. And I just like, they were like, that wasn't even that many pigs that did that probably. It was like a few. And just like, imagine that on a grand scale.
On a grand scale. And that, I mean, it's like that in many areas and places. Yeah.
Have you seen like the destruction firsthand? Like, what is it like? You worked on a ranch with a guy for a while. So like, for people that don't know, what do they do?
So they'll root in the ground looking for food, and you're talking big ruts. Once smooth land it's now rutted up and bumpy, and it's messy and smelly, and it's a big problem.
Yeah. Destroying fencing and landscapes and just it's bad. I mean, you see them running around the road.
Yeah.
They're just like running down the side of the road. It's like rats in New York City almost.
Yes. Or like cockroaches.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's that bad. But they're also good to eat, so that's a bonus.
They are delicious. Now, I would go smaller on these.
That's what I've heard.
Yeah.
People say that for trout too.
Is that true?
For a lot of fish. They like the bigger they are, the more like muscly and
I've heard that with
older.
redfish.
Yeah. But the big ones are fun to catch. The small ones are good to eat for just about everything, people say.
Fair.
So
Fair.
it's like tenderer.
We're going to find out tonight.
We're going to find out. I'm going to shoot
If the wind cooperates, because it's been really, really windy.
That's the windiest I've ever seen in anywhere ever. It's been insane.
The 80 degrees was nice yesterday.
Yeah, it's like 30 now. So, all right. Well, I like talking to new hunters. I always learn a lot from new hunters because, you know, when you start going down the rabbit hole, even 5-6 years in, you start to lose the new hunter perspective. And it's always refreshing to get it back because, like, I'm still excited every time I go hunt. I'm very, very, very excited. But it's not like the first hunt ever.
Right.
So you still have that enthusiasm.
I do.
So I'm very excited for you. And I hope that, you know, you get a lot out of this experience. I really want to see you catch a giant bass today.
It's going to happen.
You can use all of the fishing stuff that I brought with me that I caught him on yesterday.
No, I'm going to talk to the Ranch Fairy. He's going to hook me up.
The Ranch Fairy will catch you the biggest fish you've ever caught.
Don't be jealous.
I'm going to talk to him too. What are you talking about? I want to catch a big. I want you to catch a big one, but I also still want to catch a big one.
That's right.
All right. Well, thank you so much, and we'll wrap it up, and we'll go get to hunting.
Fishing.
Fishing.
Loving every day.
Love it every day. I knew it was coming.